Welcome back to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our watch club for Star Wars: The Bad Batch. Take it from me. In the end, we all choose sides. Yo, what up, troopy troops? And welcome back to Watch Club. My name is CTO831, but you can call me Hugs. And this is our Watch Club for Star Wars: The Bad Batch, Episode 6, titled Decommissioned. Now, if you're joining us for the first time, this is Watch Club, our weekly review series, which is kind of like a book club, but way better. Keep in mind, we will be going into full spoilers for this series and Star Wars in general. So if you haven't watched this week's episode, be sure to do so and come right back in less than 12 parsecs. Now, before we get decommissioned by the Empire and thrown into a pit of magma, let me introduce you to our experimental crew of ragtag troopers. First up, he's taller than a Jawa, smaller than Jabba, and just as entertaining as Jar Jar. He's CT1231, also known as Edit.
Yo, yo.
Yo, what up?
What up? Gee.
This is him low-key making fun of me doing that. And rounding out our small battalion, we have the dopest, dankest dude on Dagobah, CT1006, but you can call him Joints.
What up?
Hello.
Hello.
Are you troopers reporting for duty or what?
Yeah.
You said duty.
Duty. Tokes my goats.
Oh my god. You see, this is what I have to deal with, listeners. This is what I have to deal with all the time. These two crazy guys. I'm ready to discuss another episode of Bad Batch with you guys. But before we dive in, I want to get your high-level thoughts on the episode itself. Joints, let's start with yourself.
I thought it was a decent episode. It was cool seeing the characters again. Wasn't really expecting them. It's cool going to Corellia and not seeing a ship factory or talking about ships at all. So that was that was neat.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the episode as, again, another filler one, but I enjoyed it. So yeah.
There we go.
Overall thoughts done.
Boom. All right, Justin, let's hear how many overall thoughts you have.
Yeah, let's see. No, you know what? I've listened to our past episodes as I've edited them, and I'm just like, damn, like I just got to get more concise. So, I got to say, this one is another Adventure of the Week episode. I enjoyed it a little bit more than maybe last week's episode because, again, just like episode 4, I think it's just going to show, though, I'm appreciating the small little threads that they're throwing into the episodes that connect it to the bigger story. Yes. That's what I'm really enjoying, and that's what I really enjoyed about this episode. And we'll obviously dive into it a little bit more, but I think that's why I kind of, even though it was very filler and nothing was really at all accomplished, at the end there, we had something to chew on, just to kind of, think about where things are going to go. And that to me is very Star Wars. Like, what are they trying to do, or what is the bigger picture here?
Yeah.
And maybe that's just me personally with Star Wars, but yeah, I feel like that's why I enjoyed this episode that much more.
And we'll definitely chew on that last little bit, but we're definitely going to save that right to the end.
Yeah,
for
I don't want to bring it up yet.
Don't try to bring it up.
Don't worry about it.
Here. Hey. But listen, we could be Star Wars characters, Justin. I remember we did the same thing with Mandalorian season 1, where we kind of got to a point where we just started realizing that the story of the week blended with like the slightest ounce of overall plot development was just the way the show was written. And so, and then we started to accept it. So this is me doing the same thing for this show. I'm starting to accept that this is what the show is, and I'm kind of getting it that way. I just, I think every time going into these new Star Wars shows that it's like, okay, like we're going to just get, I don't know, I guess I just got used to it with Marvel in the past few series where that was, they only had 8 episodes to do that. So with these larger seasons, I think it's something where we might need to look at that a little more. But, I feel like, the audience didn't get as much from it, but it was nice to see our heroes interact with even more characters, as you said, Justin, that sort of flesh out this section of the timeline in the galaxy.
I agree with you, Nate. Like, I feel like we're so privileged with what Marvel is doing that we forget that that's just Marvel, right? Like Marvel has a plan of
Sure.
how they're creating like an arch to their series that might connect to something a lot bigger. So to your point, yeah, I'm at the same place where it's like I'm going to accept the fact that we're going to get Adventure of the Week episodes or Mission of the Week kind of style.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have some really conventional narrative development in some episodes.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I was actually talking to Kevin about this earlier because, he's not really interested in the series as much as we are. And I kind of came upon the discovery that most of these Star Wars series seem to like to plant those small seeds and like kind of snowball effect, where as the series goes on, stuff starts happening more and more critical to the plot.
Right.
Whereas earlier on in the series, it seems to be a slow burn and, again, Adventure of the Week style stuff. So it seems like that's their style of storytelling, which if you understand going into it, I think it's a really cool way of going about it.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about it. Kind of breaking into the plot, shall we? This episode starts with Clone Force 99 on Ord Mantell, with Omega doing some target practice with her new weapon of choice, a Zygerian crossbow. And Sid recruits the squad for a job that will require them to break into a droid decommissioning facility on Corellia and retrieve the head of a separatist tactical droid before they're all destroyed. On the way to Corellia, Tech explains the value of tactical droids and kind of how the more they fought with them, the more the droids learned, making them extremely useful in combat against clones, with the clones now serving the Empire. So once they arrive, Clone Force 99 finds the decommissioned facility is guarded by police droids, and they have to sneak in by climbing a massive ladder, much to Wrecker's disdain. He looks like he's afraid of heights. Once inside, he's told to serve as the crew's lookout, something that actually used to be Crosshair's job. Now, Hunter and the others discover there's only one tactical droid listed in the facility system, and they're not the only ones after it. Clone Force 99's competitors are none other than Rafa and Trace Martez. Now, Omega accidentally fires her bow at Rafa, resulting in the facility being immediately locked down for security purposes, and a firefight breaks out between the clones and the police droids. Left with no other choice, the Martez sisters and Clone Force 99 begrudgingly start to work together to solve that problem. So, guys, with this episode taking place on Corellia, we all must have thought that we might see a certain young pilot, best pilot in the galaxy in the show, but alas, we got Rafa and Trace, which for our listeners who aren't too sure, they are the sisters that Ahsoka Tano encountered on Coruscant in the final season of the Clone Wars. So I gotta ask, what did you think of them showing back up in this episode, and what role do you think they could play in this series? Justin?
Well, that's a loaded question that I feel like I'd like to save for our
Sure.
The last half.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think seeing them again is what I was referencing before, where it's just connecting to the bigger picture of Star Wars. The last time we saw these characters was in the final season of Clone Wars. Helping Ahsoka kind of realize that things aren't so black and white. It's refreshing to see that there's value to these characters other than where we had last seen them. And again, it just plants this bigger seed of, what part of this story do they add?
Yeah, Darcy.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as Justin. It was cool to see them return, and again, like you were saying, that this is going further to connect all the timelines and bridge those gaps that they've left open, or until now at least. And I want to save more thoughts of their role in going forward for the end, but I definitely feel like we'll probably see them again to some extent in the series. So
For sure.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
Just to kind of backtrack a little bit, seeing Omega doing target practice, we were kind of talking about that last episode, that we knew that by seeing her pick up this weapon, they were now going to start teaching her, or we at least thought Hunter would be the one, but it looks like everyone's kind of contributing, and I like that.
Yeah.
I like that sort of that sort of like brotherly love on her to just kind
Family
of get
dynamic.
the family dynamic out of it, and it
Full
was really
house,
cool to
but in
see.
space.
It was really
Yeah.
badass to see Sid come over and just be like, "Listen, you got limpy arms. You gotta
The triple bullseye? Come on.
triple bullseye, man."
So
She was just
cool.
like, she
Yeah.
totally.
I was happy to see her again, and it seems like Ord Mantell might be like their home base for now, at least for the next few episodes. But I enjoyed seeing Rafa and Trace again.
Yeah.
Their story in the Clone Wars was pretty good. I enjoyed that, and it was interesting though. I was doing some research, and it looked. And I mean, listen, toxic Star Wars fan. What else is new? I was seeing that fans didn't respond to them positively, and I really liked them. But the reason I like them is because I think they represent something that we want in the Star Wars universe, which Justin, you already called out, like a more realistic look at people sort of caught between two factions, right? Like we've got these people that work, in between, and they're kind of like the everyday working class. So I feel like a lot of people can align with those types of characters. And I also feel like their story aligns really well with Clone Force 99. So they fit in this series,
For sure.
I think, better than they maybe, and this was maybe some fans' problem with it, better than they fit in season 7 of the Clone Wars with what they did with Ahsoka.
I disagree with it. I think again, fans are just at a point with Star Wars where they're so like it's theirs, and there's just no turning back. And it's sometimes frustrating to see, because the whole idea with Star Wars is broadening it. Like just like you said, like we've lived in a galaxy, far, far away, where it is light and dark, black and white. And what all of these little stories are doing is, in a way, adding to the elements of they're not attached to fractures. They don't care about which way it goes. They just want peace in their own way for themselves to actually have a life. Like they're living life in this galaxy. So like those stories are really interesting. So to just added to the layer of, the dark side and the Jedi and everything else that kind of surrounds this light and dark mentality that lives in this galaxy. So it's just frustrating when you hear that fans are just taking it so personal like that, where, it's just they have to tear down an animated series for interjecting two, albeit very alternatively looking female characters into the Star Wars galaxy, which the Star Wars galaxy needs desperately, in my opinion.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Again, it was refreshing to have them appear in Clone Wars, and I think it's great that they've found a way to continue their story in this series.
Very cool. And I love, to your point, the theming that we're getting out of Star Wars. Starting really with Rogue One, and then The Mandalorian and Bad Batch, and coming up with Ahsoka, like getting these series that really do show that in between. So very cool. All right, let's get back to the plot then. Echo shorts out the facility's entire system, telling Tech that he has overridden the lockdown. Then that means Wrecker has to actually swing across a ravine of molten metal in order to reach the main control panel. Of course, we talked about earlier how he's afraid of heights. So, he does get across, but of course he smacks his head yet again in the exact same spot when he lands on the platform, causing him to topple over in pain. If there was any ever doubt that, what's been causing Wrecker's headaches in recent episode, it's definitely been put to rest here. He begins to whisper, "Good soldiers," and hears Crosshair in his head saying, "Good soldiers follow orders." I thought that was an interesting aspect that they used that voice, because clearly his inhibitor chip is starting to work again. Now, in the meantime, the firefight between the clones, Rafa, and the police droids carries on, and just when Trace is about to escape with the tactical droid's head, of course, Omega's leg gets stuck under some junk on the facility's conveyor belt, trapping her. Hunter uses a wire to take down the support post for one of the building's walkways, destroying several police droids and filling the molten metal basin with debris, which gives Omega something non-dangerous to land on. Then Trace rescues her, of course, with a bit of Hunter's help, and they manage to save her and have a really lovely, nice moment. All right, so we're finally starting to see what they've been sort of spoon-feeding us this entire time with Wrecker, finally saying the famous line, that we say at the end of every episode here. What did you think of that moment? And also, what did you think of Trace sacrificing her mission to save Omega? Darcy?
Definitely, again, they've been building up to this for a while. It kind of leads me to question, how has he not hit his head so frequently before? Because it seems like it's happening a lot. Like he's a clumsy guy. How has he not his head before? That's all I'm getting from that.
For sure.
But I thought it was interesting to see Trace turn around. I mean, it's kind of makes sense. Her character has always been that like of a pure-hearted person. She couldn't turn her back on someone who's in need. That's kind of expected of her. So
she's the moral compass in the
duo,
duality that is the sisters, right?
Yeah, because again, her sister is the complete opposite and is willing to leave anyone to get what she wants, type thing. So it was to be expected that she would turn around and help Omega.
Totally. Yeah, no, and I mean, Wrecker's got to break sometime soon, though, right? Like,
yeah, it's coming. This was definitely a big foreshadow.
I'm so worried for him though, because I think like they keep giving him these celebratory moments and you're making him a really likable character, and like I just feel like that means he's gonna have a tragic ending, and I'm really scared.
I'm on the complete opposite page of that, and again, I'll get into that later on once you go through the plot, because what I want to talk about is what gets him out of that funk, basically.
Okay, all right.
Like it's something we saw a bit of in episode 1, so to see it coming back, so it's like definitely something that I feel like they're going to be building.
Okay, I'm not picking up what you're putting down, so I'm excited to hear about it. But I also just really want to quickly say I got a ton of Attack of the Clones vibes. Feeling very similar to the droid manufacturing plant on Geonosia.
I was really happy to hear Roger, just to hear the droids again. Like,
that was so funny.
They have personality despite being robots, and it makes you feel bad to see them die.
Right.
Yes.
So connected to these inanimate objects, essentially, until a button is flipped, and then all of a sudden there's such personality and
for sure. And then, speaking of vibes, I also got Toy Story 3 vibes. When Omega was about to burn in the fiery pit, I was like, I saw Woody on the other side.
Yeah,
I was like, no.
Yeah,
so she was fighting. The toys had completely accepted what was going to happen to them.
They were done. Yeah,
they were done. They held hands and they were going to say goodbye. I think they just keep dropping these hints, and we're going to see him turn. What that means for the team is going to be, I think, very detrimental. And it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. To see both Trace and Rafa work with the Bad Batch to kind of get out of this situation, it just goes again to show like how human they are. They don't have necessarily the alternative motives of benefiting just themselves. They're thieves, they're grifters.
Yeah, smugglers. Yeah. Sure,
they're smugglers, and they're going to get hired, and they're going to want to make their earnings. But they obviously are compassionate, empathetic individuals who don't want necessarily to lose people.
Sure,
you know
I think you're half right, but we'll get to that in just a little bit.
All right,
yeah. Let's get to the last section of the plot here, and then we'll really get down to it. Teaming up, the Martez sisters and the clones quickly devise a plan to use the tactical droid's head to activate the other battle droids in the building, and they use them to take out the remaining police droids, which is awesome. Seemingly okay, Wrecker finally recovers the battle droids, taking out several police droids with gleeful abandon, while Tech gets the tactical droid's head signal to work, unleashing the battle droids upon the police droids and giving our heroes a chance to escape. However, during the escape, the tactical droid head is destroyed, and it looks as though both teams had failed. Now, once clear of all the droids, Omega is, of course, more friendly towards Rafa and Trace when they're parting ways, and she invites them to visit their home base on Ord Mantell someday in a very cute little moment, as she does. And then as for Hunter, he reveals that Tech actually copied the tactical droid's intel data to a data rod before it got destroyed. So he gives it to Rafa, and Rafa asks why he's handing it over, and he replies, "You'll use it for the right reasons." And then he admits that things were clearer when he and the others were merely soldiers. To which Rafa responds by saying, "Take it from me. In the end, we all choose sides." Now, there's technically more to the episode, but I'm going to save that for our prediction section at the end. So for now, I just want to ask, what were you guys talking about earlier with Wrecker? And what did you guys think of the Night of the Living Droids, which is what I'm calling it?
That's awesome. It's a great name for it.
Yeah. So what I was talking about is like when you said what got him out of that funk when he was down on the ground hearing Crosshair's voice, and it was Omega. Omega is "Where are you, Wrecker? We need your help" type thing.
Right.
And the fact that she got through in that quick second, that's what took him to shake it out, basically, makes me think that she has a stronger connection to these guys and will help eventually talk him down. Yes, he might go like switch or whatever, but I feel like she'll be able to talk him down. And like I said earlier, we saw inklings of this in episode 1. It was when they were in the prison cell, and she turns to Crosshair and she's like, "I understand what's happening. It's not your fault." And we saw him consider her words before being called away. Like, her words have very heavy impact, and maybe that's because she's force sensitive, or it's just because it just knows what's going on and is how can you get mad at a child? Maybe even a corrupted clone still has that much empathy in them, type thing. So that's what I was getting at from the whole thing. I think Omega is going to play a huge part in Wrecker's eventual turn and then recovery.
I think she's going to play 100% in the recovery aspect. I think this was just a little bit of an Easter egg or a hint at the importance that Omega has to someone like Wrecker. I think Wrecker is like her cool uncle, like her uncle that's like the dad that, you know, is going to look out for her, but like will let her get away with like silly, mischievous things. And you know, hearing her voice, it awoke in him. It reminded him what he was fighting for. I think if anything, it's going to reveal that beyond having these chips in their head, they're actually human, compassionate, empathetic people. And he's going to be able to overwrite that because he's going to have Omega standing in front of him and hearing that. Like, I feel like she's going to be the gateway for them to kind of experience how they are human and they have their own individualism, even though they are clones, right? So, because we are on this basis that clones are just carbon copies unless we get to these guys. So, yeah.
I mean, that actually pairs so well with what I was actually just about to say in terms of the Night of the Living Droids, like seeing all their dumb, like half-built bodies sort of stumble around like zombies and saying like orders are orders and stuff like that. It shows the dichotomy between droids and Clone Force 99, along with, of course, Rafa and her sister Trace. So I think that's actually really cool, and it's made me like this episode a little more than I did before. Just kind of discovering that with you guys, and like I just think that's so fitting, and it's at the end. This episode's really just showing humanity.
Yes,
rules overall.
Yes, and I think that line, her last line, in the end, everyone chooses a side.
Yeah,
the way she says it means that she hasn't really chosen a side,
right?
But she's chosen a side at the same time to help, right, in this situation that they are currently in. So I feel like, you know, she's almost a female representation of someone like Han Solo, right? Like
that's what I was just going to say. I had my hand up here waiting to chime in, but that's her whole character is the same type of reluctant hero that Han is, where he's only in it for the money, but at the same time you can tell he kind of does care more than he lets on, but he's too cool for that. So I feel like that's exactly her way of saying that, where she's like, I haven't chosen a side, but I know what side I want to work for, type thing.
Yeah,
interesting, cool. Oh man! All right. Well, that elevated it for me there. Did we have anything else you want to say before we get into our rating?
About the when we were saying how Hunter handed off the data rod, the fact that Tech had gone ahead and was copying it almost made me think that they had already fully intended to let them get away with the head while they kept the data rod, because it was a copy. They had two sets of the data now, without that head getting destroyed, they could have easily gone off with both.
Well, the data was what they wanted, right? Like, that's why they were only after the head, and then if they were able to copy it, it's just like, okay, well, like, we don't even need the head now. We can just input
and
this,
so it feels like that the plan going in, or once they started working together, was we'll both get away with what we wanted to come here for. So I thought that was a pretty cool little thing, because Tech took a second before, like, oh, and I'll put this on too. It was like an afterthought that he's like, you know what, maybe we can both get what we want here.
Yeah. And much like the sort of introduction of Omega's new weapon, I'm wondering if this is going to come up again, this data rod, this data that they have for battling against clones. I wonder if it's going to help them in the end, or will it, you know, given that now do the clones fight differently because of the inhibitor chips? You know what I mean? Like,
I think you're going to get to it obviously in the next little bit here, but it's, you know, who's the buyer for both of these situations? Who's hiring Sid to have the Bad Batch go and do this? Yeah. And who's hiring Rafa and Trace? Which
okay, well, let's get to it. Wrapping up this episode, before we get to our predictions, let's actually just quickly I'd love your final thoughts and like a review.
Oh, sorry.
Because we normally do that before we're getting too excited. But what I'll say is
the meaty bit for the end. You always want to tear into that, but we got to hold back.
Listen, hold back. I just want your final thoughts on the episode, your overall thoughts for the episode, and also a rating on a scale of 1 to 5 tactical droid heads. Darcy, let's start with yourself.
Okay. Again, top of the episode, I said it was a decent. I enjoyed the episode a decent amount. It was, again, another filler adventure of the week thing. Had some cool moments, and like I said, definitely laying some eggs for some potential future payouts. I'm looking forward to seeing if they live up to my expectations to some extent. Overall, I probably maybe a solid 3.5 tactical droid heads out of 5. It was definitely a lot of room to improve, but it was still an enjoyable adventure. And like I said, they gave me enough to be satisfied to what they come back next week.
Cool. Justin.
You know, as I was trying to push us to talk about this last little bit, this kind of ties into why I like this episode so much, because it does give you that piece is something that is leaving you with thought, was leaving you with more ideas to set up for things that we will see in future episodes. And that to me is like, if you're going to do a filler episode, at least have it do something like that that's going to at least hook me and make me say, ooh, I'm interested to see where this is going now. For that reason, though, I would give this episode same score, actually, Darce, 3.5. Same as my buddy Joints, 3.5 technical droid heads out of 5.
There you go. Okay.
There you go.
And yeah, like I was saying, I kind of gave up on seeing episodes with major plot advancement, but knowing that there's 10 episodes left, Darcy, I hope it's like what you're saying, like a snowball. Like it's small moments that, you know, push the story forward and get bigger and bigger and bigger, and that those sort of plot portions start to outweigh the filler, right? Yeah. This episode had some really great like action moments, some really fantastic moments with the teams, you know, fighting together and blasting things apart. And there, you know what, I think there were great character moments. I think there were some really good sort of just light sort of, you know, longing looks of thank you and stuff like that. I did think the message, you know, with the Martez sisters, their main kind of theme of like, there is no black and white. You know, it's a bit of a repeat from what we saw with their storyline with Ahsoka, which I think is actually good for people who've never seen them before, because then it helps to establish that part of their character. Yeah. But I think for fans who are watching this that are hardcore and probably hopefully listening to this podcast, you know, that didn't play off as much because I'd already seen it. But after having this conversation with you guys and seeing, you know, how really well they play into the theme of humanity for this series, that elevated the episode for me. And so I was originally going to give it a little bit of a lower score. But you know what? Going forward, I'm intrigued to see what we do with these characters. I'm happy that they're not going away. And so overall, this episode was good. I'm going to give it a, same as you guys, 3.5 out of 5 tactical droid heads. I was originally going to give it a 3. But no, this conversation.
Talked we did.
Conversation brought me up.
We sold it. Yeah, we failed 2 weeks ago, but this episode we did it. We did a good job.
This one worked. Well, listen. At the end of each episode of Watch Club, we like to speculate, or at least at the end of most episodes of Watch Club, we like to speculate on what we think is gonna happen next in the series. So let me read out the last moments of the episode, and then we can dig into it with some speculation. You batches. All right, so right at the end of the episode, Clone Force 99 part ways with Rafa and Trace, and while the two are leaving Corellia, Rafa sends a call to the person who hired them, saying that they've retrieved the tactical droid's intel and had help from a group of rogue clones, saying, and I quote, "I thought you should know, and I know where you can find them." Dun, dun, dun. So, batches, listen, you batches, I need to know what's gonna happen. Batch, Justin, let's start with yourself. Who the heck are they talking to?
I'm gonna guess that we all assume it's Ahsoka.
I was going to assume that, but I've got some other guesses as well.
The only other guess I could think of is Saw. Like, do we think it could be Saw? No.
Nope.
Okay.
No.
Right. So those are the only two that I could really think of.
I'm gonna let Darcy go. I want to see if we got the same thoughts.
Yeah, I understand why Justin thinks it's Ahsoka. I mean, the droid was hers. Right. But Nate, you want to say it on the count of 3?
Okay, we'll try. 1, 2, 3. Bail Organa.
Yeah, totally. It's totally got to be him, because we know that he had a connection to Ahsoka prior to the clone, Order 66. Yeah. And it makes sense that he'd be reaching out, trying to find ways to fight the New Order and stuff like that. We already know that he was heavily involved with the rise of the rebellion.
Yeah. So Jimmy Smits is in everything. He's in everything.
Also,
Rafa
did say call him, not them. He said him. Right. So that also made me lean towards more Bail Organa.
Yeah, and it makes sense too from a military standpoint what a tactical droid would be able to provide. Does make actually perfect sense.
Yeah, it builds more to his character too. At least his place in the rebellion. He seems to be that guy who finds all the data and is sending out all his operatives. He's almost like the master spy of the rebellion, and that he knows who everyone is and is the only person who knows that type thing.
Yeah, and I mean those robes, dude. He's always wearing those robes.
Oh yeah.
But like even at his beach house, he's wearing the robe. Anyways,
Jimmy Smits, right?
Yeah, Jimmy Smits is wearing those robes. You know what? I also think just as a side prediction, and this isn't really a big prediction, but I think that line that she says at the end, right? Like, saying about the choosing sides or whatever. I think they're going to split up. I think Rafa and Trace are going to go their separate ways, and I think they are going to choose sides in the end. And I think, again, it's just going to play off the whole idea of that black and white choice, where I feel like we're going to see them in some sort of decision where we'll actually agree with both of them. Right. And we'll kind of understand why both of them are making the decision that they're making. Right. And I think they sort of hinted and played with that a little bit in the Clone Wars series. So again, here I am complaining that they're repeating their stuff again, and then I'm asking them to repeat them again.
Not making any sense, Nate.
No, I know. But listen, I just
pick one side and stick to it.
Listen, we all choose sides. So I'm interested to see what they do with their characters going forward, and I'm really interested to see how they play in with the Republic, or if that even is someone from the Republic. Who knows? It could be someone.
It could be anyone.
Plus, I also think like we've got so much Ahsoka lately. We're
gonna have more too. So
and especially this timeline, period of time has already been covered in the Ahsoka book. Basically, that kind of followed her right after Order 66. So unless they plan on retconning another book. I don't see them, bringing Ahsoka back in, at least at this point in time.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
I agree.
All right, you batches. Well, that is it for the sixth episode of our Watch Club for Star Wars: The Bad Batch. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Watch Club. And if you did, make sure you subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts, if you haven't already. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts or predictions on the shows we cover in Watch Club, well, you don't have to escape a pit of magma. Instead, Justin, can you let our listeners know how to reach us?
They can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com.
Now, keep in mind, we have our standard episodes of the Geekcentric podcast, with our latest episode out now, where we give our review of Disney's Cruella. So if you want to go ahead and go give that a listen if you've watched the movie yet. Darcy, did you get a chance to watch it?
Oh, yeah, I totally watched it, and I actually really enjoyed it. Went in with low expectations and had those expectations blown wide open. So
I'm very happy. I hope we get more and more alternative storylines, I'll say, in the Disney live action world. So
yeah, because that definitely didn't tie into the cartoon whatsoever. Two totally different Cruellas,
right? And so definitely listen to our review in terms of how we think that might work going forward, and what we thought of the movie. So definitely go check that out. Justin, Darcy, thank you so much for joining me for this Watch Club. And as we say,
good soldiers follow orders.